This bread recipe is soft on the inside and crunchy on the outside when fresh out of the oven. It is delicious, it is filling, and you are definitely going to love this. So let's get right into the video. So first off, we are going to make our bread improver. This is a homemade bread improver. Bread improver consists of all-purpose flour and some water, which you're going to mix and dilute and then cook on low heat until it becomes thick. The full list of ingredients and the measurements will be in the description below, so don't you worry about that. While this is on the fire, you want to make sure you do this on low heat, okay? We're not trying to burn, neither are we trying to make it into like a thick swallow. No, you're just trying to cook it up till all of the water evaporates and it forms this nice thick paste. So what this does is it helps to make our bread last longer. If you notice, when you bake bread and you just bake it that day, it has to be eaten that same day. But with this dough improver, you can actually store the bread for more than one day and you will still be able to get that chewy and soft and fluffy texture. So that is what this helps us to do in our bread. Next, we are going to bloom our yeast, right? So we are going to pour our yeast into a container, add lukewarm water, not boiling hot. Add in your sugar, stir, and then cover this and set aside to bloom. While that is going, we are going to pour into our mixing bowl our already sifted all-purpose flour. This is milk flavor powder, and then we're going to add in our oil. And now that our yeast has bloomed, we're going to add in our yeast. Pour everything in, and then our bread improver, we're going to add that in as well. If you do not have a mixer, now I have a video on how to mix bread dough without a mixer. I'm going to link that in the description box below, and that bread recipe is also really good, which is like an all-purpose bread recipe. It's different from this one. You should check that out and also try out that recipe. This is going to be mixing on medium-low speed. You do not want it to be on high speed, okay? Put it on medium-low. Allow all of your ingredients to mix in together and just let it knead. Basically, the mixer is helping us knead our dough. What we are looking for is for everything to come together smoothly and until the dough is nice and stretchy, okay? Also, in the video linked down below, you will be seeing how to know when your dough is ready for the next step before baking, right? How to detect if your dough is ready or you need more kneading. So this is going to be kneading for about 30 minutes. I'm not even exaggerating, it sounds like a long time. Despite it's a mixer, it has to go on till the dough is actually ready. So we're just gonna let that knead for about 30 minutes and then we will move to the next step. Once that is done, don't you worry about how stretchy the dough looks. We are going to sprinkle in half a cup of all-purpose flour. Again, I'm going to link all of the measurements in the description box below. So the purpose of adding this is, number one, to avoid our dough from sticking to our work surface while we're kneading, and also number two, to help reduce that sticky dough consistency, okay? You don't want your bread dough to be too sticky and all over the place. Your bread would not come out well, especially for this recipe. So you're trying to get a dough that would hold up pretty good, okay? That is the essence of adding this extra flour. So we're just going to knead. This is not tasking, neither does it take so long. It is just so that we can incorporate the other half cup of all-purpose flour into our dough and then shape our dough before transferring it into our baking pan. I'm going to be using a loaf pan for this recipe. I used a 10x5 loaf pan for this recipe, which is basically the standard loaf pan size. If you were to go get a loaf pan in the market, or in a cake store, that would be the recommended size or the standard size that you would find much easily than something smaller or bigger than that. Okay, another thing I like to do in order not to make my dough dry out while kneading, especially for the fact that I have added some extra flour, is I like to use a few tablespoons of vegetable oil to also knead. Number one, to help me prevent my dough from sticking to my work table. Number two, to add a little bit of moisture to the dough so that it doesn't dry out. Okay, so you can just add like 3 to 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil after you are done kneading in all of your flour, your extra flour, right? Then you go in with your vegetable oil, and then you just basically form a log out of your dough, and then transfer your dough into your baking tin or baking pan. So I greased my baking pan with some butter because I actually wanted to add in some flavor. I didn't use butter in my recipe. I used vegetable oil. You can actually use some melted butter in place of the vegetable oil in the dough recipe itself, but personally I just used vegetable oil, and I decided to use butter for my tin. You can also line your tin with baking paper as a fail-proof method to avoid your dough from sticking and also to avoid burns. So press it down to take the shape of the pan, cover with your clean kitchen napkin, and leave it to rise. Okay, now that my dough has risen, it took about 15 minutes for this. So I'm going to bake this on medium low heat for about 20 to 25 minutes until the bread is brown to your satisfaction. Really, some people like really brown bread, some people do not. So but the moment you start perceiving baked bread, you know that the bread is ready. However, you can choose to leave it in the oven for a few more minutes if you want it to get darker in color. Then I like to just spread a little bit of butter on my bread while it's warm, not hot. When you bring it out of the oven, allow it to release some steam, let it cool a bit. Once it's warm, spread your butter generously and cover with a cling film. Allow it to cool completely that way. Right now, I'm just slicing in, and you can see how soft and beautiful this bread loaf is. Before I could finish this content, my family members had already jumped into this loaf and had a few slices. I myself had a few slices. Okay, just look at how beautiful the bread is. This bread is really filling. You don't need to eat so much. A little goes a long way with this bread, really. You can have it with your favorite spread. You can toast it as well, and you can basically just have fun with it. And so I would be showing you the texture of the bread. Upon baking, the bread actually has a very crunchy and crispy crust, but don't you worry if you're not a fan of that. Just store the bread in a plastic bag while it's still warm, and then you would notice that with time everything will become soft as thin. I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, share this recipe to your loved ones, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.